we'll show you some basic things you can do with the spreadsheet. Now, follow the tutorial tab or the sheet that it's released with this for more information. But I'm just going to kind of go through some quick shortcuts that'll help you out here. So, what we've got is a log of what we did on a trail, a hike. It's got dates, it's got legs, that's going to be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. We do have a lot of information about how many miles we covered each day. And this will be what you call a running total over here, the total number of miles we've covered on the entire trip. All right, we'll fill in an average eventually and a total distance, and then we'll make a line graph at the end to visually see what happened, how the trip went. So, some shortcuts you can do with dates, instead of having to type this in repeatedly, and most of these shortcuts involve this little circle down here at the bottom of the cell when you click on it. If I click on that, and I guess I need to talk about the cursor here because the cursor is an arrow to select things. Once I've selected a cell and I get toward the edge, it'll turn into a hand. I can use that to drag things around. I don't necessarily want to do that here. I'm just showing you. But if I get in this bottom corner where that circle is, I get a giant plus sign, and that's kind of your shortcut cursor. So spreadsheet's really good about figuring out patterns and kind of carrying them out. So I'm going to click that and drag it down. And there you go. It figured out that, oh, you want to do multiple days. All right. It almost works for this, but notice what happens. It just puts a 1 everywhere. And I really wanted that to be 1, 2, 3, and so on. Now, if you give it 3 numbers in a pattern, it's really good about figuring out what the pattern is. So I'm going to highlight those 3 things. You have to highlight the 3 things you want to get the pattern of. You can't just highlight the 1 and drag it down. You've got to give it all 3 so it has something to look at. But once you give it 3 numbers, it's really good about finding the pattern, and you can drag that little shortcut bubble down that way. All right, we're going to try to come up with a formula here for total miles. What I recommend to you is just do it the long way for a little while until you see a quicker pattern and then make a formula. So on day 1, I covered 4 miles. My grand total so far is 4 miles. Pretty straightforward. All right, I get up tomorrow, I go 7 miles. So I'd already covered 4. I went 7 more. That's 11. Okay. Yep, next day I go 5 miles. All right, I've covered 11 so far. Add 5 more to that. That's 16. Okay. Next day, I get up to 11 miles. I've covered 16. I go 11 more. That's 27. And usually, by the third or fourth, when most people kind of see what's going on here, we're taking whatever we had yesterday, adding what we do today to it, and there you go. Yesterday plus today equals the new total. Yesterday plus today is the new total. So let's make a formula out of that. You want to use formulas as much as possible in spreadsheets because they can do the math way faster than you can by hand, and it's just easy. You just drag it down and you're done. So every formula starts with an equals. Pattern was we take yesterday, add what we did today to it, and that's our total. So as far as formulas go, there are some predetermined things like sum and difference and average, things like that. But you can do any kind of 4-function math in here too. You can take one cell plus another or minus another, divide, times, whatever you want to do. And I'm just simply adding these 2 things together. You don't ever want to type a number in a cell unless you have to. Number 1, it's way easier to just click on 27. Notice that E7 popped up there because that's the battleship style locator for that cell. Number 2 reason you want to do it that way is, what if I make a boo boo and I have to go back and it's actually 12 miles that day? I don't want to have to go through and redo the math for every single number in this entire column right here. If I do formulas, everything gets updated. All right, and I'll do that for you here in a second and let you see what happens. So again, I'm clicking on this number plus. I need to type a plus sign. I see this a lot. It's like students assume the spreadsheet's just going to kind of read your mind. It has no idea you want to add. So you got to tell it. You got to tell it to add, subtract, whatever you want to do. So this thing plus the 3. All right. And just kind of give it a little check. The 27 plus 3 is going to equal 30. It gives you a little preview. Sounds good to me. Hit enter. And there we go. Now, as soon as you've got it this way with the cell numbers, um, if we click on this now, the one with the formula, drag it down. Oops, I missed it. There we go. It just applies the pattern for us, and there we go. So let me tell you what I was talking about, how it automatically updates. Let's say on June 7th here that I actually messed up and I didn't go 10 miles, I covered 12 miles. If I had to make that one change and I did all this by hand, guess what? You got to start here and change every single number on the list. But if I used a formula, looks like I did here, if I put in 12, the entire list updated. All right. And that's the nice thing about using formulas on a spreadsheet. Saves you a lot of time. All right. We're supposed to find the average distance. All right. So that's a predetermined formula. You type in equals average. And here's another shortcut. Notice how, as I'm typing that, things start popping up. Um, I highly recommend when you see a name on this list you want to use, just click on it. One, yeah, it's less typing. And two, it formats everything exactly the way the spreadsheet wants it. So you don't have to worry about missing a comma or a parenthesis or something simple like that. All right. So this is the average distance per day. So the D column, that's the miles I covered each day. So I just want to average these numbers. I'm just going to highlight them. And notice it's in parentheses there. So make sure that happens. Hit enter, and there you go. That's how many miles I averaged every day. Total distance. All right. I want to add up. So I'm going to do equal sum. I'm going to add up the number of miles I went every day. So also these same numbers in the D column. Just keep in mind what you're dealing with here. The E column, that's your grand total so far. So honestly, 101 is what this should add up to. And if it does, you definitely did it right. Everything's kind of matching up. So that's a good thing. All right, some other stuff that it's going to ask you to do. These are just pretty basic things. The trail log, if we want to give that a little fancier font, we can come up here to font and change it. Bold, italic, underline, strike, all these normal word processor things are up there. All right, now these numbers, I kind of want them to stand out. So I'm going to make these a chart. I'm going to put them in, put a grid around them. If you just go this little window looking thing and click on it, you've got all kinds of options, and I'll play with a couple of these in a minute, but this is your most basic. Just put grids around everything. And I'm going to do that for these as well, for average and total. So those are good. For my column headers, that's what I'd call these, the names up here. I kind of want a darker line underneath there just to kind of make it stand out. So I'm going to go over here to the border style, which is like the thickness really, or you can make it dotted or thicker. This one's the color. I always found these kind of misleading. That one just looks like it's going to be the thickness, but that's the color. This is your thickness. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. And you got to show where you want it. I want to make a line at the bottom of these names here. So I'm going to do this one that's got the bottom border. And there we go. Now we got a little bit thicker line. And you could, let's put a big border around the outside, like a really thick border. All right. So really thick one. And here's this one that just says outside borders. It's pretty intuitive. You can look at this where the lines are on the grid. Kind of shows you where everything's going to go. And it makes it stand out a little bit better. Colors are nice. So what I recommend, here's your little paint bucket. Column headers, maybe make them a darker color. And then the stuff in the column, make it like a little bit lighter, but still in that same family of colors. It looks like I went too light on the other one there. I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. All right, that way it kind of stands out, but it kind of looks nice too. You can do that for all of these things, and I believe it asks you to do that in the assignment. Last thing, we want to make a line graph of how far we covered on each day. Or I'm gonna consult real quick what I had y'all do just to make it look similar. I tell you what, take it back. I'm gonna do the date and how far I've covered total so far. So here's what I call advanced clicking. I would like to see the date be at the bottom of the graph and the miles be on the side of it. I want those labels on there. So I'm going to highlight all of these numbers, including the word date. Here's where it gets advanced. You got to hold down the control button. It's the bottom left of your keyboard. CTRL is how it's abbreviated on most everything. So I got to hold that down. And then I'm going to highlight this other column. Once it's highlighted, I can let go. I know that's tricky if you have a Chromebook. Uh, just work with it. Holding that button down and highlighting can be a little bit weird. But once you got the two highlighted, you can let go of everything. And basically, what that's saying is, all right, the stuff in the B column here, that's one list of numbers. It's going to be one axis of your chart. E is going to be another list, the other axis of your chart. I'm going to go to Insert Chart. Sometimes it's pretty good about coming up with the right thing that I kind of expected. Sometimes it's not, and it defaulted to a line graph. That's exactly what I wanted. By including, if I get my little circle, there we go. By including those column headers in here, it automatically put those as labels. It put the dates as my x-axis. It put the total miles as the y. And it even gave a little nice little chart title. So to change anything with the chart, if you double click on it, or you can go to these three dots and do edit. So here's all your normal. This is customized. All your chart title stuff, anything you want to change with the style, font, that kind of thing. In setup, we if you didn't get the line chart, but you want it to be a line, you can change to all sorts of different formats here. But these are all your different types of charts. And everything else is looking pretty good. So I'm happy with that. And I'm going to leave it there.